Welcome to As a Matter of Faith, brought to you by Altered States, the internet ministry committed to starting each day of the week with the good news of the gospel. I am your host, Preacher Bob. Gardening is work enough without having somebody actively trying to sabotage what you're doing. Keeping the bugs from eating everything up and keeping the weeds from overrunning everything, that's not an easy hustle. One thing you really don't need is somebody intentionally planting weeds in your garden. Jesus told a parable about a farmer who had a very similar situation on his hands. He's made the point of planting the very best seed in his field, but while he's asleep, the enemy comes and plants weeds in the very same field. As the farmer's crop begins to grow, unfortunately, so do the weeds. Now, ultimately, we know that this parable really isn't about farmers with weeds in their fields. It's a microcosm of the world in which we live. Jesus, of course, is the farmer or gardener. The field is the societal matrix in which we live. The good seed are those who believe in Jesus and trust in Him, and the weeds, well, they're the ones that don't. So welcome to the real world. In whatever culture or ethnic group you may find yourself, there are and always will be those who believe and those who don't. This is unavoidable because even though God has granted human beings the gift of choice, well, the choices that we make are not always the best. So we live in a fallen and broken world where sin reigns supreme. Those who believe in Christ know that a day is going to come when finally we're going to be freed to live in that total perfection of heaven. But the fact is we ain't there yet. In this in-between time, believers continue to live among the weeds. But there are times when it seems as though the garden is going to be overrun with weeds. That's when it's important for us to remember God's promises to His people, that He will never leave or forsake us. With God's tender care and protection, we'll grow and prosper in the place that He's planted us. We can be confident that the God who planted us won't allow us to be overwhelmed or choked out by the weeds. As a matter of faith, remember that even though the field in which we may find ourselves is filled with weeds, the field still belongs to God. May God grant you the grace and courage to live faithfully today among the weeds. Who knows? Your example might just help transform a weed into something more pleasing to the gardener.